humans have this kind of amazing ability that spans generations and demographics and geography to adopt new digital behaviors that resonate almost overnight, right? Like if it works and it's intuitive, then they can switch really fast. As consumers have these experiences with AI-based, agentic apps that serve them, they're also going to expect that the retailers that they go and shop at will have those experiences online and in store and across every surface that the retailer is present at.
The fact that Google CEO Sundar Pichai took the stage at NRF spoke volumes about the value the tech giant sees in e-commerce as the AI battles heat up. Not only that, but he used the event to make a major announcement about how shopping is evolving with Google. Lucky for us, we were able to snag some time with Google Cloud's Anil Jain while he was also at the show. Anil takes us inside Google Cloud's work with retailers and brands across the commerce spectrum and shares a bit more about the company's approach to the brave new world of AI shopping. Welcome back to Retail Remix. I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, editor-in-chief at Retail Touchpoints. And today we have with us Anil Jain, who leads Google Cloud's Global Strategic Industries team, which includes the retail industry. Anil, thanks for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so right off the bat, I've got to just get a better handle on your job. And I know you already started to try to explain this to me, so let's do it for the audience too. Tell us what you do, and broadly speaking, what Google Cloud does for its retail clients.
Sure. So let me simplify it because,
yes, please.
Those of us in big tech, complex enterprise organizations have kind of wonky titles at times. No, I have the privilege of leading a pretty amazing team. We get to do some really great work. But essentially, the strategic industries go-to-market team at Google Cloud has the responsibility for authoring the strategy for how we're going to help our customers deliver AI-driven industry transformation. So how we're in this era of AI, especially agentic AI and generative AI, the way to think about it is every industry is poised to not only transform, but rethink the entire shape of the industry and adopt new ways of working. And my team's responsibility is to figure out what is the strategy of how you leverage cloud, data, and AI tools to help embrace that transformation for your business. And of course, in retail, we're here at NRF. Retail is, of course, all about delivering delightful consumer experiences and driving efficiency across the entire consumer journey from, product discovery all the way through fulfillment and then post-purchase. And so what we're doing with the retail industry and all of our retail customers globally is helping them think through that and address different parts of their business, which we can talk about.
And then how much are you involved in the execution of the solutions?
So as Google Cloud, we are involved not only in building the product and helping deliver it to the customer, we actually work very closely with our customers. We get them involved in helping us define our product roadmaps, but then we work with customers through our customer engineering teams, our professional services and consulting teams, but also with a large ecosystem of partners, both systems integrators and independent software vendors that are actually working hand in hand, helping our customers implement.
Okay. I think for those of us not in tech,
sure,
an example or two might be helpful. Can you tell us about a few interesting projects that you've worked on recently?
Sure. So let me talk about a couple, and I'll use one that's, hopefully addresses kind of your question with the context of what's going on right now. So at NRF, we just launched yesterday in our CEO Sundar Pichai's keynote.
Oh yeah, that was a very popular address. Yes. I've never seen the need to break for applause in an NRF keynote, and it happened at least, I would say, 3 times during that.
We're very excited. This is the first time Sundar's come to NRF, actually. And he felt and his team felt that this was kind of a real important moment for us as we talk about the rise and emergence of agentic shopping and agentic commerce. So to that end, we announced from Google Cloud, Gemini Enterprise for customer experience, which is essentially, you can think about it as a platform to enable both shopping and service agents across your retail enterprise to help deliver a much better consumer experience, which ideally will lead to expanding, basket size, increasing conversion, enhancing brand affinity and loyalty, and all the above. And so to answer your original question, in launching Gemini Enterprise for customer experience, which we just announced, it's only 2 days old, we actually preceded that by working with a number of top retail partners of ours, including Wayfair and Target and Shopify and Etsy and Walmart. And so you were asking about how we work with them.
Yeah.
They were involved early on as we defined this product and the solution, because for Google, across the board, we've always kind of put the user first, right? And in the case of our enterprise business, where we're, with cloud delivering business to business kind of solutions, the same kind of philosophy applies. So we wanted to make sure these leading retailers that have a global footprint and relevance and kind of the industry watches could be involved in helping us shape what is the experience that they would have, and are the products that we are delivering actually aligned with what they're trying to accomplish in terms of their businesses. So we worked very hand in hand. That's where we've rolled up our sleeves, and our product and engineering teams actually worked with the product and engineering teams and the marketing teams, et cetera, at these organizations. So one aspect of your question was how do you work and help?
Yeah.
So we did that, and that's aligned with a product launch. And right now, one of the amazing things about the democratizing power of AI is the speed of implementation is kind of ridiculously fast. So what our teams are doing with Gemini Enterprise for Customer Experience, or GECX as we call it, is we are actually helping our customers stand up like POCs in hours.
Wait, what's a POC?
A proof of concept.
Okay,
Sorry, or
yes.
prototype. Before you buy and before you go and implement this, let's see,
test it out.
Let's test
see
it
what
out.
it would look like.
We set up these agents, like a shopping agent, for example, in half an hour to a couple hours.
That's insane.
And they can see it live and working, that it's within their brand voice. It looks like their business, and it actually provides that multimodal, which I'll explain, experience for consumers. So they can, multimodal means, it's not just text and chat and hunting and pecking on a website. You can use voice, you can use images and video. So the idea is a consumer says, look, I'm trying to find a dress that, matches these shoes. And you can actually show the agent through your phone, through the app or through a website, your shoes, or take a picture or use a video. And the agent will, because it's multimodal, and it can understand the video, understand the image, say, oh, I see those boots you're planning to wear. And it'll come back and ask you questions to clarify, like, what's the type of event? Or what do you, is this for the evening? And what are you looking for? Or what are some of the other parameters? And the reality is, when you actually implement this, and consumers opt in, and you have maybe an existing relationship with the retailer because you're a loyalty, member, or you have past purchase and you've got an ID and you log in, you can leverage that information that says, well, we know you've already bought the following things, or this is the type of stuff that you like. So now you have a personalized experience that gives you a much better outcome and makes you happy and fulfilled in your shopping experience, but also helps the retailer deliver better products and sell more.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us have experienced some of what you're talking about on the general, like, Google search platform as we're using that. But what you're talking about then is kind of helping brands and retailers and other businesses create that similar kind of experience, but on their own website.
Yes.
With their own, yeah. So like a Google level multimodal search experience, but on the Target website.
Yeah, there's this, during Sundar's keynote, there was a few kind of slides being presented, and we'll publish this eventually, but there's this beautiful kind of two kind of circles that overlapped, and it was kind of Google services and retail services. And the idea being that we want to provide that same experience wherever the consumer is.
Yeah.
If you're coming in through Google search in AI mode, or you're coming in through the Gemini app now, or you're on the retailer's app or in the retailer's website, you have that agentic experience. And really what we mean by that is you have an AI powered agent that is not just chat, but it's like supercharged chat.
Yeah, it's almost like a store associate.
It's like a store associate, but it's a fully knowledgeable expert store associate that knows all of your product details across your entire catalog, as well as inventory levels, pricing, has knowledge of offers and discounts, and can in real time understand delivery and shipping and all of the above, right?
Yeah. What I love about this is I feel like Google has always raised the bar in a way that maybe was difficult for companies. So like as Google search got better and better before AI,
Right.
it only illuminated how bad site search was on other people's websites, including like ours. The better the experience got on Google, the more you realize like that you weren't willing to accept anything below that.
Yeah.
And I know that was a lot of what Google Cloud has been doing. But so of course the same thing is going to happen as you continue to advance the agentic capabilities of general Google search. But it sounds like you're already thinking about how to help other brands keep up with you, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point, Nicole. The thing I think about when you take a step back is what we have seen. Certainly, like my career has been from the dawn of the internet, through kind of from web to mobile and beyond to where we are now. And one thing that has occurred to me, and it's just fascinating to see as I think about, this is true across all kind of industries that deal with consumers, is that humans have this kind of amazing ability that spans generations and demographics and geography to adopt new digital behaviors that resonate almost overnight, right? Like if it works and it's intuitive, then they can switch really fast, right? And the truth is, like when mobile computing became something of significance and users had smartphones, and then they'd go into their jobs, and those companies didn't use apps on phones or didn't have that ubiquitous connectivity, it became a real friction point. And so enterprises had to suddenly catch up and say, we need to make sure everything is available and accessible through phones and tablets, right? So it's very analogous to the point you're making, that as consumers have these experiences with AI-based, agentic apps that serve them, they're also going to expect that the retailers that they go and shop at will have those experiences online and in store and across every surface that the retailer is present at.
So you cover all strategic industries. Now tell me this, does that just mean all industries?
Yeah.
Because is there any industry that's not just strategic?
Well, I guess, it's, eventually all industries. When we talk about strategic industries within Google Cloud, it's where we have kind of an invested, focused effort in terms of our people, where we have a defined strategy, a partner ecosystem, a bunch of folks in the sales and kind of service organization that are focused on those verticals. And so,
so the strategic aspect is they're strategic to Google's business.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm asking because I wanted to ask about what trends you're tracking across the sectors you work with. And then I realized I might be just asking you, what trends are you tracking across the world? Because it sounds like you cover a lot of different sectors in your work. But are there any that come to mind, like big trends looking at the year ahead that you think are going to be really important to pay attention to beyond, of course, AI?
Yeah. Well, I think the reality is everyone is focused on AI, but it's a very large umbrella of capabilities, right? And so I think that with each subsequent kind of technological innovation that introduces step change kind of disruption or transformation, that new things emerge in terms of how leaders across organizations have to think about managing their business.
Right.
But what's also happening here is AI is democratizing the power of certain capabilities across everybody, right? So consumers have a lot more capability now. And therefore, every business that serves consumers also has to embrace those capabilities. A couple examples, I think. So, you said aside from AI, I think AI is embedded in these, but I think a couple of the trends.
Yeah, maybe what I should have said, drilling down beyond just broadly saying AI. So with some things that are under the umbrella that you mentioned.
Exactly. And that's where I was headed. I think.
Perfect.
I think one of those is hyperpersonalization.
Okay.
So folks that have been on this kind of journey from the .com days forward have had this vision for a really long time. It's, now let's call it a 30-year journey where we've had this dream of one-to-one personalization, right?
Yes.
That you get what is specifically designed for you to meet your specific needs. And you can actually get that kind of mass customization done. We've gotten closer and closer, but it's been kind of one of those things that just hasn't happened before. Now, increasingly, it's within reach. Right?
Okay. So you think this is finally really possible? Because it is I haven't been around as long, but it is something that I've been hearing about for years too. And I feel like the line is always, we're getting there soon. But so now we might be there.
So let me give you two examples of, that I think are very very much around the corner.
Okay.
And they're kind of happening now in some places. One is in advertising and one is in promotion, okay? Like direct offer promotion. And then I'm bringing these up because they're very relevant to retail. So in advertising, while we have continuously done, of course, Google's been leading the charge here in targeting, so that you get highly relevant ads that are suited to you, because that, of course, increases the benefit for the advertiser and for the consumer in terms of increasing click-through, et cetera. If you now can think about the power of generative AI, right, which is not just creating images, but actually creating videos, creating audio, creating voice, and you have all the inputs you need that you target around, and you have the advertisers' campaigns and brand assets. You can actually think about in real time saying, oh, Nicole is, let's just use this as an example. Nicole is watching this episode of Friends and somehow indicates through interactive capability that she really likes Rachel's sweater, right? Not only could we surface an ad that gets dynamically generated at the break, right? We can also personalize it with the color, right, that we know Nicole likes because of her past purchase history. Right? And maybe actually have information that is localized to her in terms of where it's available. Right? Okay. Yeah. And then if you think about what we were talking about back to Gemini Enterprise for customer experience, if you now have shopping agents, right, that are interacting with you when you are on the retailer's app or their website, and you're having a conversational, multimodal experience to kind of find what you're looking for, because we know more about you, or the retailer knows more about you. And of course, all of this is based on trust and consent that you've opted in and you're logged in, right? And it's secure. Imagine the ability to say, we know that Nicole is a loyal shopper, or comes by, makes 3 or 4 purchases every year at these, in a seasonal. What if we offer her a very specific promotion that is not like a coupon in our bank, but is designed specifically for Nicole?
Yeah.
That is dynamically generated and personalized just to you, right?
Wow.
So these things are possible today. And that's where I think hyper-personalization is showing up. And it's going to show up in many, many more forms than that across industries.
I mean, I think even just hearing the examples you gave, they're exciting. There's an element that's a little bit scary. And I think that might be true across the board about all of this. And it's the general kind of sense here, I would say, at the show is like, there is so much excitement, but there is also a little bit of an underlining kind of like fear and uncertainty. I'm curious, like, what are the biggest concerns that you hear from your clients, especially because, as you said, this is all developing so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. It's something we're very, very mindful about at Google, because I think the truth is, when you take a view historically, every major technological innovation has been met with resistance and inertia and fear, because it is disruptive. And, no humans
change
don't like change, right? Yeah, change is hard. So I think that, this ties back to the question of trends. I think one area of concern that everyone talks about is the changing nature of jobs.
Yes.
Right? And the reality is, AI is a tool and a capability set that should augment the way we work. But because it's so powerful, we have to now think about new ways of working. Yeah. Right? So whether you're a sales associate in the store, or you're a merchandiser, right? Or you are a marketer, right? Or you're a planner, or you run the supply chain.
A journalist covering retail.
Or you're a journalist, right? You have to think about all
I think we all are a little bit feeling like we do need to ask ourselves that question.
The good news is, I think that all the organizations we're dealing with, right? I think early on, let's say, it's kind of crazy to think about it, but if we think about putting a time frame on the AI era, the way the world sees it, it's been 3 years, right? 23,
you give
24,
it 3 years?
Well, because
you've been at Google, I feel like it may have started earlier for you.
Well, actually at Google, it started much earlier than that. Right. But I'm talking about the moment where the world said, oh my God, there's this chat capability. Yeah. It feels like a human.
That was 3 years ago?
That was 3 years ago. But in that time, so much has happened that we are actually finding that the attitude has shifted from a little bit of more fear, uncertainty, and doubt to leaned in, how do we leverage this capability to move faster? Yeah. But the good news, and I'm really happy about this, is a lot of these organizations are we're not here to displace jobs. We're here to actually figure out how do we get more done, or how do we do it better, with the KPIs being better customer service, expanded margins, more revenue, better insights. So we're making the right products or sourcing the right products for the right consumers. And I think, I know we're talking about retail, but I think even in journalism, right? It's about being able to summarize a vast amount of research, right? Much faster to give you what you need to actually generate more content that is relevant to audiences. I think another thing that is really interesting, and I love this because I also, when I first came to Google to run the media and entertainment vertical, which included publishing.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
Yeah, and it still is.
Yeah.
And especially now, it's kind of really crazy, the innovation that's happening. But if you think about just a very basic example, as a journalist, you put in a lot of time to do interviews and research and then craft whatever piece you're producing, right? But audiences, you have to meet audiences where they're at. So if you produce a piece of content that is highly relevant to a bunch of people, they're not all going to be able to read it the way it comes out or listen to it the way it is. But, people might want, give me the 5-minute summary because I have a break and I can walk to my coffee and listen to the podcast, right? Or I want the summary form, or I want the 5-slide video animation, whatever it might be.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have to create every format, because what you can do is create the original piece and then leverage AI to repackage it.
Genius. Now you're giving me ideas.
I think it's the future, honestly.
Well, okay. So speaking of the future, I think this is probably the most important question that I'm going to ask you, which is just what should organizations be doing right now, retail organizations specifically, to not get left behind in this moment? And probably some of the smaller, we already see the big guys with lots of resources jumping right in. But what can people who don't have that level of manpower, that level of financial liquidity do to not get left behind in this moment?
Yeah, that's a great, and it is an important question. The good news is this, right? We talked about the democratizing power of AI.
Yes.
And how quickly it moves, right? And how quickly you can implement. What that means is you don't have to be a massive enterprise with deep pockets and lots of resources and talent to be able to implement. You could be a small retailer and still take advantage of AI. The other key point is, and this is something we've been very we've purpose-built our set of products. So if you look at Google, we're the only organization that has the full AI optimized stack, from global infrastructure and silicon, the actual chips, all the way to full first-party applications and agents, right? So the way I like to say is you can engage at whatever altitude you want to engage at based on the capabilities you have in your organization. So if you have thousands of engineers and a deep technical expertise and you want to develop things that are very bespoke, you can do that and build on our infrastructure and our developer platform and use our models. But if you are a smaller organization, you're like, I don't have those resources or the money to go hire those resources, you can use things like Gemini Enterprise for customer experience right out of the box and implement it without needing technical expertise, right? So you can go fast, and that means you can level the playing field, right? And one of my colleagues yesterday, as VP of product responsible for Gemini Enterprise and CX, put it this way, he said it's the great equalizer, right? So you can think about AI as the great equalizer because it actually gives the power of these capabilities to organizations that before were limited because they didn't have the talent or the technical resources or the financial resources.
Yeah, because a lot of these things needed a lot of humans also too, and they maybe didn't have that. Very interesting. I like that. I feel like it puts a really positive spin on this.
Yeah, ideally, hopefully, this is what we believe. So we don't think it's really the positioning. In fact, we're seeing it happen. And I think if I had to kind of prognosticate about what's coming, I think across industries, you're going to see interesting small companies suddenly become massively popular because they can focus on the right product or the right offering that meets the needs,
their
specific
customer.
niche. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, better than they ever could.
Yes.
Well, that's really exciting. Okay, so we're just about out of time, but before I let you go, I have a few final fast questions for you. Are you ready for those? Okay. So I noticed, occasionally make reading recommendations on LinkedIn. I'm wondering if there is a book that you think we all should read to better understand our world right now. And it doesn't have to be a book about AI. Is there any book that you've come across that you just think is required reading for people in 2026?
Oh my. All right. Well, keeping my Google hat and roll on, because this could get quite philosophical otherwise. I do think some of the ones I recommended are still kind of amazing reads. And there's a whole number of them out there.
Okay.
I think that people might feel daunted by this kind of, oh my God, it's AI. I don't know anything about this. I just thought it was science fiction. And now suddenly the whole world's changing. I'm going to get left behind. The reality is that is not true, but I understand the feeling. And I think there are a lot of really interesting kind of authors out there. There's great podcasts out there as well to help you understand. So ones that I've recommended that you might have seen include T-minus AI, which I think is a good general level kind of business area, but it's really well written. It's easy to read and you can learn a lot. I mean, it's a few years old now, but that one was quite good. If you're interested in like the history of it, Genius Makers by Cade Metz is a brilliant.
See, now that's more up my alley.
You'll love that
that
book. That is, I actually bought one of these for every member of my team and gave it to them because it is a phenomenal book. The other thing I don't know if you want me to promote other podcasts on your podcast, but
it's fine.
if you're aware of the Acquired podcast,
no,
it's been going on for 10 years.
Okay.
This is a couple guys in Silicon Valley. Actually, I don't know if they're both Silicon Valley anymore, but they do these great research-driven stories, but they're long podcasts, and they kind of break down a company. There's a podcast from October of last year on Google, the AI company. And it literally goes through the kind of dawn of this era of kind of what is powering AI, the transformer model and all these things from the history, which actually will lead to the things we're doing in cloud, lead to Waymo, a number of other things that you experience in the world today. And it's an amazing story.
Great.
They do a really good job.
I'm definitely going to check that out. Okay. So, I mean, we've been talking about is tech. And so I'm curious, what is your favorite way to unplug?
Actually, it's, I would say, that's where you kind of get into this kind of the more philosophical thing. I think it's really important. In fact, like a personal point of view on this is I think given how fast things are moving and how it's all AI and digitally driven, I think what is going to happen is we're going to, as a global society, recognize that there is a premium on all things real, like truth,
like tactical,
and nature and physical and in-person experiences. So for me, getting out into nature, even just going for a walk, and feeling the sun and the wind and doing that, I try and do that aside for being at conferences like this. I try and do that every day as a great way to unwind. I actually think there are more and more ways to understand how to stay healthy and exercise. And I think that's really important. And then I like to read things that are non-tech. So
yeah. So reading, that's a popular one. I've asked a few people this question, and reading
you get to
is still
escape,
coming up there.
Yeah.
I know. What was the most exciting idea, speaker that you've come across this year at the show?
Gosh, so I will say that, for me, there's two things. One, I tend to end up meeting with lots of customers and partners, so I don't get to go to all the content sessions, right?
True.
So my answer will not be representative of all the sessions
but it could
that I'm
be an idea that really sparked, that you thought was really interesting in those conversations.
Yes. And so what I think, I was just at a session right before this, and it featured Fiona Tan, who's the CTO of Wayfair, who's a good friend of ours. And it was really interesting because we were talking, the session was about the future of work. It wasn't about, shopping necessarily, but it was about embracing kind of AI across your organization and what works and what doesn't work. And the discussion that she had with Carrie Tharp from Google and a number of other folks was really, it's about change management within your organization. And the way to start is not to think you have to have this holistic, comprehensive AI strategy, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and find the team and the set of people internally that are willing to experiment and get started and just start. Because once that happens and you actually kind of touch the power and the capability and see what's possible, it opens up everything.
And see also what doesn't work for you, too.
Right.
Yeah, just get in there and do it.
But it reduces that friction, that...
And the intimidation of the whole idea of it. Yeah, I love that. That's a great one. Last one is, what are you most looking forward to in 2025? It could be personal or professional, whichever, but I'm sorry, 2026.
Yeah.
What's exciting in the year ahead for you?
So, I'm very grateful to be working at Google. I think,
it does seem like a fun time to be at Google.
It's an amazing era. And honestly, what I'm most excited about, there's a lot of things I'm excited about, but I think what I'm most excited about is, we talk about AI in retail or AI in media. There's amazing things happening, but I think we're going to, in 26 and beyond, come across huge breakthroughs in how AI helps us do fundamental discovery and science that actually will lead to massive improvements in the quality of life, whether it's medical breakthroughs or scientific breakthroughs. And there's a lot of kind of what we call foundation models or science foundation models that we're also bringing to the market to help people do better research and development and accelerate those processes.
That is exciting. Exciting for humanity, not just retail.
100%.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, way to close it out on a really positive note. Thanks, Anil. It's been really fun talking to you.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.